Hello and welcome to Catacris TV. My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and our guest today is Tarah Carpenter, lead singer from Tarah Who. Now, Tarah, I love the name of the band. It's kind of simple, but is this a solo project, or do you think it's more of a band project?
Well, it's kind of both. It is a solo project in a sense that I write everything, but
Okay,
I also need people to go on stage with me,
sure, sure.
and
Um,
that's also a band. So
the guys that play on the album with you, is that the same band you take on the road with you?
Ash is playing bass on the recording and on this past album, and then on tour, and then I have a different drummer who does recording, and then Alain actually has done the guitar, the lead guitar, and then Lisa learned his part.
Okay, now I understand that you were originally a drummer. Talk a little bit about that.
I don't really know. I was just drawn to the drums, when I was a kid, and I guess it wasn't ladylike, so I was not allowed to learn how to
Yeah.
play the drums. And then I was told you can do classical guitar or piano, and I was like, but I just really want to play the drums, so I just taught myself.
And the reason I ask about that is, interestingly enough, a lot of great frontmen over the years started out as drummers. Everybody, obviously, from Janie Lane of Warren, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, of course,
Oh,
Phil Collins from Genesis. Different type of music, but it's interesting because I think it gives you have like two perspectives. It's interesting enough because when you're a drummer, you're in the back of a stage, and now you're the front woman, you're the main singer, the one that everybody's coming to see, and so I think gives you an interesting perspective having been both in the front and the back of the stage.
yeah, I could see that. I think to me, it's more like I see that perspective from writing, and
Yeah,
also for writing, and also like I can put myself in the drummer's shoes, for instance, when we
sure.
rehearse and stuff like that, and also like during the live, we play a lot with that. So sometimes we switch. We also have for headliner sets, for instance, I also have. Well, I bring actually the drummer from the recording session up on stage. He does keyboards, but then we have those moments where all the three of us, since we're three drummers, we have some percussions. So we play a lot with that.
I love that, bringing everybody into the live show, and it's kind of a unique perspective too. And I love the fact that like you often hear musicians say that when I play live, I want it to be a lot different than the record. Because if you want to listen to the record, stay home. But we're going to do something different live,
Yeah,
entertain you.
I want an experience. We're entertainers. Like that's the whole point. We want people to go back home with just a different, a new thing about the band. Something you can talk about. We want to take you out of like whatever is going on in your life. Like forget it all right now. Let's take you somewhere with us. So that's the
And I
idea.
got to tell you, the unique thing, Tara, about talking to you today is until your publicist reached out to me, I'd never heard of the band. And we'll get into that a little bit. But what's interesting is, so obviously I knew I was going to be talking today. I wanted to check out some songs off a new album, kind of know what I'm talking about. And interestingly enough, the music, I will say, really grabbed me. I mean, first of all, for never having heard the band, I'm giving it an honest listen. And one thing I can say about your new album, the every song is just killer. I mean, there's not a filler song on there, and it's one of those albums. I think maybe 10 years down the line, people are going to look back and say, that was one of those killer debut albums. Maybe very much like the debut Van Halen album. Not so much that you sound like Van Halen, but it'll be one of those albums that people say, you had your whole life to write these songs, and these songs really mean something. But what's unique is they all sound like they were written around the same time. They sound like they fit on the same album. And I think you're making a huge statement with this. And this is the first thing people are hearing from you.
Thank you. Wow. That's
Yeah, and also even visually, um, the band is killer to look. I mean, even just the album cover. I mean, it grabs my attention. I think that's what a great album cover is supposed to do. When I was growing up, people actually went to what we call a record store. You buy your music there, not so much these days, but that was a lot more of an experience. I remember for the first time I ever seen Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast. Not even knowing a thing about the band at the time. You know, I was like 10 years old, but I just thought, seeing in the story, I remember it's like, I don't know what the hell this is, but it's so cool. I got to get it.
Oh, nice. That's good. Well, actually, yeah, it's the album cover. I wanted something like bright, full of colors, something that just stands out, like you
Eye
said.
candy, if you will, the whole thing. I mean, kind of
Yeah.
like a almost a page out of a comic book or something, but it looked really cool. And I want to ask about the logo because maybe it's just me, but I was curious if you're all a Kiss fan. The reason I asked is the logo kind of has somewhat of a look.
No, I just wanted something more like I'm like a small biker, and I kind of wanted something like that.
Well, it
Yeah.
stands out. So, um, and you don't need to be taken from anybody because I think the whole band just kicks ass in your lyrics. And you know, also in listening to some of the songs, let's see here. Um, don't come knocking. Now that's like the whole album's pretty much kind of got a rock and really punk sound. There's that punk element to what you do. And I got to say, as a vocalist and listening to the songs, your voice really stands out. You know, it's one of the main things in listening to these songs.
Thank you. Thank you.
And is that hard to do? I mean, how hard is that? Because it seems like when you were recording these songs, you were very focused. And again, you must have been trying to kind of come up with the Tarah Who sound, if you will. And I think again, you've accomplished that. You know, right out first album out, and you seem to be getting pretty good response from people with the new album.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the response actually. Yeah. No, I think it happened naturally. I was working with Alan Johannes and and we did it in two sessions. We were both touring in different parts of the world, and then we just hey, initially it was actually going to be an EP, and so we did that in Portugal in Lisbon. And then I just got more inspired, I guess. And then I was like, hey, I have more songs actually. Should we just make it an album? And
Mhm.
then he happened to be in Europe as well, and we were playing. Well, we're doing a tour in France, and so we met in Spain, and we finished the album. And the thing is, I have people, Ash and Vince, who's doing the drums. They're just dedicated. They're focused. They just come in for their part, and then they go because I don't like to have like a lot of people. And then it's just Elaine and I, and it's awesome because he really understands what I wanted or needed. And so we just went really fast, like we had 5 days for the first part, and then we finished earlier. So then he just mixed. And then we did the same thing with the second part. We had 6 tracks, 7 days. We finished in 5. We're like, okay, well, let's just mix and let's just go see the women soccer game, because we had extra time, and
I I love that because I am an old school guy because of my age. I still love having physical CDs and that to look at the artwork and I love full length albums. I mean, again, that's just me and my age. Maybe I do know most bands you go in and do like a 6 song EP, but I love the fact that you got to that point and you're like, you know what, we're having so much fun doing this. Let's do
yeah.
maybe 5 more tunes or whatever. Give them a full length and I love the feeling of getting that whole package. I mean, you could have released a 6 song EP and it would have still been kick ass a release, but I think a lot of people would have been left thinking, this is so good. Man, I wish it was a full length. I wish we got a little more. But then again, you always keep them wanting more, right?
I did consider doing it in 2 parts just to have like some another EP coming out
Sure,
like
sure.
but I was like, no, this is like the same story. This is the same chapter. And then, going back to like having CDs and vinyls, I'm really into that too. And I was like, when I was a kid, I would buy a CD. I was waiting for it. I was reading like every
Not
single,
now.
like really dissecting it, and like who's the label, who's the manager, who produced it, like who mixed it, and everything.
Yeah.
And so for the people who are still like this, there's like little gifts in the album and the vinyl that you don't get when it's digital. So that's why I like to print it, just small copies, and the people who have it, they have
So
like
I went on Amazon to look for like physical copies. Are those going to be made available, or can people get those now?
on the website because I'm not distributed, so I just do it myself. So if you go on the website, I'll send it to you myself.
Oh, great, great. That's great to hear. Now, you're from Portugal.
I'm from France.
Oh, France. Okay, okay.
I'm
Wow.
from
And so you played, I guess, mostly in Europe. Have you had a chance to come over here, United States yet?
I live in LA. Well, I
Oh,
live in the
okay, okay. Wow, wow. So, being from France, I got to ask, did you grow up there and live there most of your life and just recently come over here?
no, I was born and raised in Paris, but at the age of 15, I went to high school in Kentucky.
Oh, wow, wow. So that must have been, was that, I don't want to assume, but was that much of a culture shock?
It was, but I met great people and I introduced me to, obviously American culture.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and then I went back to France to finish high school baccalaureate, and then as soon as I graduated, I came to LA, and I've been living in
Oh,
LA.
wow. So let me ask you, when you were growing up in Paris, were you a fan like of a lot of American bands here, or were you more into the European bands growing up?
No, no, you're
See, you there, Tara? I think we lost Tara. We'll wait and see if she comes back. Wow, wow, okay. Are we losing you, Tara? I don't know what's going on.
um,
We lost you for a minute, Tara. So I was asking you, were you as much into the American bands growing up in Europe, or?
yeah, yeah. I was very much into the American culture and American music, um, or English speaking, because sometimes it was Australian or whatever.
Okay, wow. And who would you say was your some of your all-time favorite bands that really had a major influence on you?
When I was 15, it was very much Alanis Morissette.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think it just connected because, I was finding myself,
Yeah, that's interesting because over here, when I remember when Linus Morissette was first breaking in a big way, she was considered more alternative rock, but there was also a certain punk element to what she did.
Yeah, her attitude for sure. And I mean there are a lot of women like that. And then the thing is at the time it was mostly advertised, if you liked rock it was mostly
Yeah,
man, you know.
yeah,
But then finally someone like introduced me to Bikini Kill, to L7, to Hole and all that. And it was a different perspective and I was like, holy fuck, like what's going on? So we can also express ourselves in that manner. It doesn't have to be like all pretty, all like,
and I don't think necessarily it should matter you being a front woman in that versus a man, but you will probably get a lot of that. I mean, does that bother you? Is that something you thought much about? Oh, wow, I'm a woman that rocks, or
well, I never thought about it for me doing it. It's
yeah,
just that, I've been exposed to the situations where, um, well, people don't take you seriously because you're a girl, or they don't expect you to, whatever, like fill in the blank.
yeah, yeah. Like I bet with you, Terry, you get a lot of when people hear your record, or hear you singing for the first time. They're like, "Wow, I didn't expect that to come out of that."
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
If anything, like I play a little bit with that, like when people are like, "Oh, here's another girl," and then after they're like, "Hey, do you want a beer? Do you want anything?" Like, "Oh my gosh, that was so badass,"
I mean, I can imagine when people hear a record, even for the first time, they're like, they see you, they meet you, or they see you in concert, they're like, "Wow, she looks so sweet. I didn't expect that attitude out of out of
And
someone."
you know what? I'm well mannered,
Yeah,
so they
yeah,
don't expect me to be all like angry on stage.
yeah.
So
But again, I think, like you said, it's just an attitude. I mean, even you go back to a band like was with Debbie Harry, and she was always kind of, people were talking about the way she looked and stuff, but she was one of those Blondie, one of those charismatic front women that people, she's a legend these days, but she had to kind of work to get to where
we
she is
all
now, a little harder. Yeah,
always do. Like, don't expect because you see them. It's always a fight. Unfortunately, still today. But it's better. It's
yeah, yeah.
better. We're getting there. Like without those women, we wouldn't be able to.
Do what
You know,
you're doing, yeah,
yeah,
and it's kind of interesting, when you have people like will review the album, they'll bring up the fact that, oh, it's band's fronted by a woman. Like, again, I don't know that that's really important. What's important is, does the band have talent? Is she a kick-ass vocalist? And in my opinion, yes to both. But um, you definitely have the song. So let's talk about your songwriting craft, because I'm just impressed. I mean, for a debut album, every song just you knock it out of the ballpark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want to
I guess
know?
like, what's your songwriting approach? Like, you start typically with like coming with lyrics. Let's say when you hear the guitar riff, you start with lyrics. You start with the title. What's your approach when you write a song typically?
Honestly, it depends. Sometimes it's just a burst of emotion that just needs to come out, and then I just, as I'm writing, I actually hear everything, and then that usually goes really fast. It's just like 10 minutes of like, there's usually a lot of
Yeah,
crying involved, so, and then I'm just like, and then everything is just like vomited on a piece of paper, and I actually want to feel it in my hands.
yeah,
And then I don't touch anything because I really want the song to have that, like everything how it came out. And then sometimes it's just fucking around on the guitar and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I just start like doing the guitar and then I add the drums, I add the bass, and then I'm like, okay, what are we gonna talk about now? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. And of course, when you're writing songs, the story is a big part. What you're writing the song about, and let's talk a little bit about that, because to me, interpretation is a beautiful thing. Like, obviously what you wrote each of the songs about, but what's it like as a songwriter when people come up to you and they say, Tara, I just love this song, excuse me, Tara. And, it reminded me of when my father, my mother, somebody died, and you're like thinking, oh, that's not what it's obviously about. But the fact that it means that to you, that must be kind of a unique feeling that people get different interpretations of your songs.
Yeah, so I've had actually people who have told me that a lot about songs that really help them go through something.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is on this last tour with The Exploited, a lot of people came up to us after the show and they were really connecting to the songs and to the performance. And so we've had, for instance, there was a father whose daughter just went through cancer,
Oh,
and she's
wow.
in remission and she's 16 and she is learning how to play the guitar. So having Lisa and I like rocking out with the guitars. He just wanted a picture with us to get her like, something to look up, to and something like that. And he bought a bunch of merch to give to his daughter. Like we had a lot of stories like that. We had like there's this father also his autistic daughter obviously who's 5 years old could not
Oh,
come.
wow. Yeah.
She loves Tarah Who. So he came to the show for her, got a lot of videos and merch and whatever, and he told me the story of how she really connects to the music somehow, and I find it fascinating, and I love those stories, whether it's for the lyrics or for the music, and I really get it because as an ESL,
Yeah.
and when I connected to the songs from Alanis Morissette, I probably didn't understand like everything that she meant, but whatever English word that I understood connected with whatever.
And I'm wondering how much of not maybe it's not even necessarily what the words meant when you heard Alanis Morissette for the first time. Maybe it was her attitude. Maybe it was that angst she felt
Maybe.
that inspired you. It's probably a little bit of everything, but
And
I
she
think that's a great thing. Like you're telling me the story about the autistic person. I mean, I worked with people like that in my day job, and it's amazing. They have a real love and appreciation for music. Interesting thing about autistic people is they really kind of honestly react to it. It's not put on or anything, and a lot of times music is like a saving grace for them.
Well, what's fascinating with that story to me was that she connected to a song called Matters, which is not really easy to listen to musically, but it's about kindness and it's about being kind to everyone without having a book to tell you what to do,
Yeah,
as in,
again, I've never met the individual you're talking about, but I can tell you from my own experience working with people like that is she might not have necessarily understood the words or what the story was of a song, but they kind of really get off, honestly, a lot more than so-called normal people, just on the simple sounds, how
yeah,
the sound makes them feel, maybe how the sound of your voice or the sound of a guitar.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting when you see people respond to your music like that, because it's much more of an honest response than a so-called normal person. Because even talking to me today, you might think, okay, he has me on a show. He's going to tell me my my music is great and everything. But um, but the thing is, these people that they don't have those filters of like, oh, I don't want to hurt her feelings. So they're much more honest in just the way they react to your music.
That's
Yeah,
true. They're on a high. You
yeah,
know, like this other lady, she was like, "Oh my God, I this is the first time that I'm out since I found out that I have MS and I couldn't move." And she was like, her body was hurting. And then when she heard our songs, and then when she saw this two girls on stage just rocking out, she forgot about her pain.
yeah.
You know, and I mean that's fucking beautiful. Like that just like that's the reason why we're out there.
Mhm.
It's and then everyone also said like like we listened online, it's great, so we decided to show up, but like you guys live is just so much energy, people need to come out and see you, and we're like, oh, thank you, like it's
Yeah, and
awesome.
I gotta say, I think it seems to be a response that people are having to this album because even when I went online a couple days ago to listen to some of the songs, um, that was my honest reaction hearing it for the first time. Wow, all this stuff just I can't wait to hear the next song. Can't wait. And finally got to the final song. Oh, and another one I want to talk about, since we're right around that time of year, is you got a kind of a great rock and Christmas song. Do you believe in Santa Claus? Talk a little bit about that. Interesting to have that on your debut album, but again, I think that's pretty kick ass.
Thank you. No, yeah, I was a little bit pissed off with that one, and it's someone who told me I don't believe in Santa Claus, and basically I'm just telling him like, do you believe in Santa Claus now? You know, it's just a little thing between me and
Yeah,
that
well,
person.
yeah, that little angst came out, and I love that because who doesn't love the holidays? And we all pretty much get to that point where we kind of stop believing in Santa Claus. But what I kind of get out of that song is like, you know, I don't really want to stop believing. I want to believe as long as I can. If you don't believe in it, f you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you get it.
And
That's
I think that's the worst thing. Even you see like little kids that are bullies to other kids, and they'll tell them something like, "Hey, you jerk! Santa Claus isn't real. Santa Claus is your mom and dad." You're like, why do you have to ruin it for for other people?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But again, it's what I love about it is it's not it's a little fun song. You're not trying to do anything special with it, but it's not your typical Christmas song. It's the first
No,
time I've ever heard a Christmas song that's kind of got a real kick-ass punk element to it.
yeah, yeah.
And then I was reading one of his songs. Oh, let's see, "Army of Women" is up for Grammy consideration. Talk a little bit about that because I mean, again, off your debut album, first time out of the ballpark. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's a song I wrote with my wife. Actually, she did the lyrics. That was a song that I had all the music for, and I really wanted something like big and kind of like an anthem.
Uh,
And I knew I wanted the theme to be about for the woman, actually. And but there's just so much to say about women, like outside of like, obviously voting and all that. It's also like just the support of women, like stop criticizing each other, like stop judging, like just fucking support each other. And then and so my wife helped me put all of this you know down into one song, and then we worked together on like how to make it fit so that. But yeah, that's
I
what
mean,
it's.
I hate to say this, but has it been your experience that a lot of women are catty? Like I think oftentimes women will judge each other more worse than men.
I'm actually okay because I kind of like get along with pretty much everyone, or I don't know if someone thinks that about me, but it's more like what I see on social media when like there's just like so much like just mean comments and
I
just
mean, the world we're living in, the craziest part to me is that, without getting too political or anything, is the fact that people will stop speaking to people they've been friends with or relatives because they have a different political opinion. I mean, my way of thinking, you vote how you want to vote, I vote how I want to vote. Um, I'm not going to stop being friends with, at least I'm not. And I think for those people that are, that is really sad that just because, I mean, I like to think how boring the world would be if everybody was just alike.
Yeah, no, for sure, I agree.
I mean, and I think that's kind of,
Tolerant, but in both ways, like both
yeah,
sides needs to be tolerant. But
yeah,
you
I
have
think,
to also
go ahead.
understand why you are voting for that person, like that would definitely change my opinion on someone,
Mm,
especially if it's like gay rights or like women rights or things like that, you
mm.
know. So I get your point, like do whatever you want, like live in peace,
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing, the only thing I'm saying about getting political for just a minute is it's kind of interesting, like about naming names. People that I grew up that were like rock heroes of mine growing up, people used to try to censor their records, and they were very outspoken about that, as I think they should be. But people in modern day, they get a little too political, and they want to censor other people. Like, hey, if you don't believe what I believe, don't play my. I don't want you to play my song. If you don't believe what I believe, then you should be censored. Again, I think everybody should have a right to say or speak their mind as long as they're not really hurting each other. But it's just kind of a crazy world that everybody wants to censor each other, and we have much more of a cancel culture these days.
I agree. I mean, there's to me it's a balance thing.
Balance that.
I agree with you as in like for the most part, but to me it's like also you have to be mindful of like the consequence of
Sure,
like like using your words or your song, like if someone was, and I'm sorry, I'm just gonna be out there, but
sure,
if
sure.
someone used a song of Tarah Who for like a Trump rally, I'd be pissed,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I wouldn't want people to think that I support that,
uh, yeah.
so, but but I get your point for other situations,
Sure, sure.
where I do think that people are being a little too sensitive these days.
Yeah,
It's almost like they haven't been gone through a lot of things in their lives.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't say anything. You can't. I think it's a balance thing. I
Oh,
think.
sure.
Um,
I will say, Tara, the interesting thing in listening to your debut album is that you seem to have really found your voice on the album again, and it's really a refreshing sound because there aren't a lot of great rock bands like there used to be years ago when I was growing up. I mean, probably to my ears, I mean, I find myself listening to a lot of the same, a lot of the bands that are retiring, and um, that I grew up on. But one that really kind of sticks out to me the last couple of years is the Dead Daisies, and it's a unique band because they have a revolving doors. People come in and go, and even the lead singers, John Crosby's the current frontman, but they got great songs. It doesn't seem to matter that they have a revolving door of musicians. It's a great band, and they're pretty impressive with what they've been able to do. Now, I would compare you guys, Tarah Who, to that because very refreshing sound. And oftentimes when you're hearing a band for the first time, you're trying to think, who does this band Tarah Who remind me of? And I can honestly say, and I don't know if you set out to do this, but you accomplished this. You got a real fresh sound. Sure, like I said, there's kind of a punk element to what you do, but it's definitely rock. And I can't think of another artist that has that sound right now.
nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's why this band, the more people hear about it, the more will stick out to people. Now, the album just came out a few weeks ago. What's the plan? Like you're obviously over there. Well, you're here in Los Angeles, but do you plan to start doing live shows?
Yeah, I'm going to focus on the documentary. We're doing a documentary with a friend called Brian Downey, and that kind of like exposes it through our story. It kind of like mentions being independent and what it means, and then women
And in
in
a
rock.
documentary, I seen a little clip of that. What is that basically going to be like? What's the plan? Like a 2 hour documentary that basically telling your story, or more about the album and the songs?
It's gonna be kind of like both. It's gonna follow us through making the record, going on tour, and you know, women in rock,
And
women
is there a projected release for this? Like when do you think we'll see this?
2025.
And where will we see it? Will we see it online, on streaming services? What's the plan?
we're probably streaming services, and we'll have like a release party somewhere out here in Joshua Tree.
Well, Tara, once you guys release that, I'd like to have you back on. If you want to bring any of your band members on, you're welcome to do so because I'm really a big fan of what you do. And like
Thank
I
you.
said, I'm a new fan, but I'm loving it so far. I'm not getting tired of any of these songs. So when do you think you'll know about the Grammys? Around before February?
No, it's gonna be. I think they announce the nominees in November.
Well, good luck with that. I mean, as they say, it's an honor just to be nominated, right?
We're not nominated yet, but it would be.
Being considered, right? Okay.
Yes.
So
No,
that's
no, no. We're very grateful, but yes, there's
And
a.
final question. How did you guys hook up with Pavement? Because they're a great little label. Did they come to you or did you send them some music?
It was yeah, I kind of like I saw that online. They had a spot available. I sent my stuff and luckily I liked it. So
That's great. I mean, they got a great roster of artists. So welcome to Pavement. And I want to thank our mutual friend Barbara, the publicist, for helping to set
that's,
this up. She's given me great interviews over here, so I want to thank her. Tara, Tara, excuse me. It was great talking to you, getting to know you. This will be going up around Thursday. I'll let Barbara know and feel free to share it. Take care, my friend.
yeah, thank you so much.
Bye bye.